Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about my 38 horsepower tractors, and basically I'm going to be telling you guys how I use these tractors for the purpose of you guys out there that might be shopping around for a new tractor, helping you figure out what the right size tractor is for you. And I think the best way for me to do that is to basically tell you guys how I use the tractor. Okay, so you can kind of figure out where you are relative to that, right? Would you be doing the same things? Would you be doing less work? Would you be doing more work? I think that that's a good way to approach that. Okay, so um, the way I break the work down that I do with the tractors. By the way, I have two tractors. This is my L3901. Bought this year. It's got 50 hours on it, and then I have another one at a different location, an L3800. That's got 470 hours on it. Okay, so the way I break down the work is that for me, about 80% of the time, I'm working easy with the tractors. Okay, so easy work would be like when I'm cutting grass, or brush cutting. Okay, or pushing snow that's about maybe a foot tall, right? Um, that's what I would call easy work. Okay, 20%, or rather 19% of the time, right? I'm working the tractor hard. Okay, working the tractor hard for me is like when I'm trying to break hard dirt loose. All right, when I'm doing some type of digging with the loader. When I'm trying to push snow that's about closer to 2 feet tall, right? Because the total height of that bucket is about 24 inches. So if the snow is as tall as the bucket, you're getting into work now, right? You're gonna be working with that. So that's about 19% of the time. 19% of the time, I'm working the machine hard, and then there's that 1% of the time where I am working beyond the capability of the machine, and I have to change the way I am doing things. So if I'm doing a lot of digging, an example of that would be, okay, I got to rent a bigger machine for this project, or if I'm using my pallet forks, the thing that I'm trying to lift with with the forks is too heavy, and I have to do it differently. So an example would be if I'm picking up rock salt, right? The pallets typically weigh 2,000 pounds. The loader cap- the lifting capacity of this bucket here is only about 1,000 pounds. But when you put the forks on it, the weight shifts out further out. So with the forks, the lifting capacity is closer to like 800 pounds. So now if I've got like 2,000 pounds of rock salt, what I will typically have to do is I will typically have to have that broken down into 3 pallets. So instead of having one pallet with 2,000 pounds on it, I'll tell, let's say, the store that I'm picking it up, that I want them to break it down into 3 pallets, so that each have, let's say, like 700 pounds each, right? So that's just an example. So the reason why I think that that's important is because, for me, I feel very comfortable being in that range where I'm working the tractor easy 80% of the time, working it hard 19% of the time, and then 1% of the time I've really got to use my brains to figure out a different way to do it, or figure out a way to make it work for me, right? If I found, like, let's say, like when I pick up when I get, let's say, pallets of salt, I only do that twice a year. I'll do it, let's say, I'll pick up one pallet at the beginning of the winter, and then I'll pick up another one halfway through. So I'm only doing that twice a year. Not a big deal, right? To tell the store, hey, break it up into 3 pallets. Break one pallet up into 3 pallets, and I don't care if I gotta pay extra for it. So I'm only doing it twice a year. If I was doing this on a weekly basis, and I had to go pick up these pallets, basically I would have to upgrade the tractor. Okay, so that's my mindset. That's how I think about this thing. So if I'm let's say like I said, I work this tractor hard 19% of the time. If I found that I was working it hard 60% of the time, again, that's another situation where I probably need a bigger machine. Likewise, if it was reversed, if I was working the tractor easy 95% of the time, I probably have too much machine, right? So if I got, if 95% of the work that I'm doing is too easy for the tractor, I probably got way bigger machine that I need. Okay? So for me, being in that position where 80% of the time working easy, 90% of the time working hard, 1% of the time working beyond the capability of the tractor. I think that's a good place to be. Okay, so let's take a look at this tractor over here and how I use it. So this is a 38 horsepower tractor. Both my tractors are 38 horsepower. Basically, I have different properties. It made sense for me to have two different machines at different locations, at two most extreme locations, rather than have one machine I'm trying to trailer back and forth. Okay, so 38 horsepower is what the engine is in isolation. So if you take the engine out, put it on the table, run it, it's going to give you 38 horsepower. That's not what's going into the machine. Okay, so let's take a look at the back end of the tractor here for a second. Okay, so back end of the tractor, 38 horsepower engine is giving me 30 horsepower at the PTO, but that's not just the PTO, right? That's also, because all that stuff's kind of tied in together, right? It's also putting 30 horsepower into the wheels. Okay, so that's the power also that's coming off that shaft, that same, that same differential, and going into the wheels. So this, in reality, this is not really a 38 horsepower tractor. It's really a 30 horsepower tractor, right? So the PTO power is really the only thing that counts as far as the power that you're getting out of the tractor. Now a lot of times people say, well, you're going to run out of traction before you run out of horsepower. Well, the solution to that is more weight. Okay, I have 1,000 pounds here in the back. That makes those wheels stick to the ground. That's how you increase your traction. A lot of times people focus on the tread pattern on the tires. That's not as important, I think, as the amount of weight you have going, in those, pushing those tires into the ground. So over here, these two wheels, because both of the wheels are filled, they've got both these wheels with the rubber, the rims, and the fluid together weigh about 1,000 pounds, and then I got 1,000 pounds of counterweight over here. All right. The way I see it, the fluid in the wheels offsets the weight of the front loader, right? The wheels offset the weight of the front loader, and then this counterweight, the 1,000 pounds, offsets the weight of the material that's in your bucket. Okay, so the fluid in the tires is not enough. You really need enough. When I with my L3800, when I started using that, 8 years ago. For the first 50 hours, I did not have any counterweight in the back, and I was doing some loader work that was in that 20% category where I was like really working the tractor, and I could definitely see that my wheels were like, when I had the bucket loaded right with dirt, the wheels would like spin out on grass. Okay, so I realized that I needed weight in the back. I put 500 pounds of counterweight in the back, which greatly improved my working ability with the tractor. Right. The tractor was, just basically you could see the tractor sitting down a lot more, much better traction. It wasn't like tilting, because without the weight in the back, you move as you were driving back and forth, with material in the bucket, the thing was tipping forward. Put 500 pounds in the back, tractor became a lot more stable. It also takes the stress off of your front axle, right? You don't want to put, you want to put as little stress on your front axle as possible. That's one of the vulnerable areas of the tractor. This year, in the beginning of 2021, I got into another project where I was working in the mud, and with the 500 pounds in the back and fluid in the tires, what I found was that the wheels were like basically sinking into the mud all the way. It was basically soft dirt that was turning into mud, and my front tires were sinking into the dirt all the way up to the axles. And what I did is I added more weight in the back. I brought it up to 700 pounds. And I saw an immediate improvement. Worked like that for a little bit, and I said, let's go for broke. I basically got more weight, upped it to 1,000 pounds in the back, much, greatly improved. Right, much happier. Tractor was working a lot better. My front wheels weren't digging into the mud so much. I was able to get my work done a lot faster. Okay, so this is probably one of the most important things that you can put on your tractor. Counterweight in the back if you're doing loader work, especially on soft ground. Okay. Now the other thing I want to talk about is the PTO horsepower into your implements. With 30 horsepower at the PTO, I can run a 6-foot brush cutter or finishing mower in the back, versus let's say if I had let's say if I had a 25 horsepower tractor, I think there's only something like 18 horsepower at the PTO. The difference comes down to being able to run a 5-foot mower versus a 6-foot. For me, I'm a busy guy, got lots of work to do. It makes a big difference to me running a 5-foot versus a 6-foot. I'm able to cut about an acre in about 10 minutes. Okay. Now, it usually takes me a little bit longer, 15 minutes, because there's some areas that are hard to access. I got back into them. But the difference is if I had, let's say, a 5-foot, all of a sudden it kind of doubles the time. Okay. So that's like one of the most important things to me. I got to get done fast and keep moving. So having that 6-foot mower on the back, it is worth it for me. Okay. Now, if you're kind of like a semi-retired person and you got nothing to do except sit on the tractor all day, maybe you can get the smaller tractor. One thing I do not want for myself was the belly mower. Problem with the belly mower, first of all, it's under the tractor. If you're gonna do any other work, right, like drive the tractor over rough ground, you have to remove it. Otherwise, you're going to damage it. Okay. And the other thing with the belly mower is that basically you more or less have to buy it from the dealer, and it's specifically fitted to that one tractor. Versus with the 3-point cutters, right? You go to you got lots of options. You can buy it from anywhere. Any 3-point attachment is going to fit on the back over here. Okay. Now, a lot of times if I'm doing because at the other location where I do most of the brush cutting and the grass cutting, for most of the summer, I keep the front loader off and I just use the tractor for doing the cutting work. Occasionally, when I want to do some loader work, light loader work, what I'll do is I'll put the loader on, right, and I'll leave the finishing mower or the brush cutter in the back, and I'll use that as a counterweight. You can't do that with a belly mower because you have to actually remove it so you don't damage it, running over rocks and stuff like that. However, be aware if you're going to use your finishing mower as a counterweight and the tractor's bouncing around a little bit, that will stress out the arms. The 3-point arms that attach your mower to the machine, and I did break the arms. Not a big deal for me. I know how to weld. I welded it back together. But for people that don't know how to weld, that can become an expensive. It can become an expensive fix. So that's one of the bad things about using implements as counterweight. When the tractor's bouncing around, that the arms that attach your implement to the tractor, they can get stressed out and they can bend and crack and all that sort of stuff. That's why I prefer to use just dedicated counterweight. One of the things I did, this bar over here is about 1 inch, 1.25 inch thick. One time I backed up into a tree while I was doing some loader work and actually bent the bar. Okay, not a big deal. Took all the weights off, put the bar on a railroad, one of those railroad. Basically on a piece of railroad. I used a sledgehammer. I used the railroad as an anvil. Used the sledgehammer to straighten it out. Put it back on there, right? If you bend your rototiller, right, that's not so easy to fix. So that's one of the reasons why I definitely recommend don't use your implements if possible as a counterweight. Get an actual counterweight that you don't care if you back up into something and you hit it so much. So that's my thoughts on that. Now. Before we go to the front loader, I want to talk to you guys about the front loader. I want you to guys take a look at this weight here. That's what 1,000 pounds looks like, right? It's basically the width of the tractor, and so it's about 5 feet. What is it? About about 5 feet long and about 2 feet tall. Okay, let me take you to the front right now. Okay, so we're in the front over here. Got my bucket over here, right? It's about the width of the tractor, about 2 feet tall. Okay, you can barely fit 1,000 pounds of steel in this bucket. Okay, so obviously the steel is a lot more dense than dirt. So the point I'm making, right? You're not going to get 1,000 pounds of dirt or rocks in this bucket, right? Because a lot of times people look at the lifting capacities of these buckets over here, and they're like, oh, these loaders are like, oh, it doesn't lift enough. You're not going to get 1,000 pounds in there. You know, most of the time you're lifting 500 pounds of dirt. It's not until you put like pallet forks or something on it that you can possibly get, you know, and go beyond the lifting capacity of the loader. And in my case, that's when I was, you know, when I'm trying to lift pallets of rock salt. And you know, I don't do it that often. I only do that like twice a year, where, you know, I have to kind of change the way I do it, right? If I was doing that on a more regular basis, I would say, yeah, I need to get a bigger tractor that has more lifting capacity. But for most of the work that people are going to be doing with their buckets, you know, having 1,000 pounds, or, you know, whether you have 1,000 pounds or 900 pounds or 1,200 pounds, it doesn't make a difference, because you're only going to get 500 pounds of dirt in there, or rocks in there, because you saw what 1,000 pounds of steel is, and you know, you can barely fit in that in there. Okay? So if I'm moving like loose dirt, like let's say I have a dump truck bring me in some gravel or some dirt, and I'm spreading that out, I'm doing some grading work, right? That's easy work for this tractor, right? You could do it. You could easily do that with you know, with the 3,800. You can do it with the 2,500. That's easy work. Okay. The place where I start getting into that 20%, where I'm stressing the tractor out, is when I'm trying to break into hard dirt, like that dirt that you see over there, right? If I'm trying to break into that, you know, now, you know, going into that, trying to break that loose, you know, that's work, right? That's stressing the machine out. The way I typically do it, before I had the stump bucket, the way I would do is I would go into it at an angle, and I would use these corners to kind of break it loose. And yeah, the frame would kind of bend a little bit, but it would bend back. I think that's the reason why they sort of limit the lifting capacity of these loaders, because they could put more powerful hydraulics, and this frame could lift more weight. But then guys like me would be using the corner here to try to break dirt loose, and with a much more powerful hydraulic system, I'd be probably bending the frame. So I think that's why they cut the lifting capacity of this machine at about 1,000 pounds. Okay, but that's how I break into hard dirt. I use the corners here. Now there's a better way to do it. Let me show you guys a better way to do it. Okay, so that's my stump bucket, right? So this is really great for doing like light digging work. I've done other videos focusing on this. When I bought it beginning of 2021, it was like $500. Now I think it's like $700 because of all the inflation and the money printing. But as you can see, it's got teeth in the front. It's a triangle shape, so it concentrates the force in the front. And this is really good for doing light digging work, okay? A lot of times people consider, like I considered getting a backhoe for this machine. And I've done work with tractors that have backhoes on the back. I don't like it because with the backhoe, pretty much you have to, you know, it's really hard to dig on the move, right? You gotta basically, because when you're gonna go use a backhoe, you gotta put your stabilizers down. You gotta get out of the driver's seat, go into the backhoe seat, do a little bit of digging. Then if you want to dig somewhere else, you gotta get, put your stabilizers up, move back to the front seat. So it's really a pain. A backhoe on a tractor is really good if you gotta dig something like a grave, right? Or if you need to access some pipes, or in a specific spot. So if you're going to be just digging a hole, like a grave-like hole in a certain spot, backhoe is great. If you're going to be digging on the move, you need an excavator, right? The stump bucket, because it's on the front, right, you're able to dig and move. For light digging work, it's really good. Ever since I've gotten this, I've really I've not needed to get an excavator for any work, because prior to having the stump bucket, occasionally I just would have to rent out an excavator for a day or two. And again, that's like when I get into that 1% of the work where I have to 1% of work where I have to get a bigger machine or something different. Most of the time working with the stump bucket, I'm in that 20% or that 19% range, where I'm working the tractor hard, trying to break some dirt loose, like that dirt that you see over there. That's something that you can kind of dig into with the stump bucket, get the rocks out if you need to. This is really good for getting rocks out of the ground. So, and it's quick attach, because usually a lot of times if I'm doing digging work, I'm going back and forth between stump bucket, flat bucket, stump bucket, because, I just find myself going back and forth a lot. So the quick attach feature is a great benefit. Okay, so, But yeah, this is what I use for my digging work. I use the stump bucket. Works out pretty good for most of the time. All right, so I want to show you some work that I did here. On this side over here, basically I pushed these berms, that dirt back to create these shooting berms. So I did this with my L3800. I did it with the flat bucket because I did not have the stump bucket at the time. And it was hard work, using the corners of the bucket to break the dirt loose and then kind of pushing it back and up. So that was definitely in that 19% range of the tractor working hard. Really having to work hard to push it back. Now over here on this side, right, basically that's the situation where after I broke some dirt loose and piled it up, I was able to easily pick it up and just drop it over there and create that berm. So now that's that 80% of the time, right, where the tractor's working easy. Okay, so I'm working with hard dirt that I gotta break loose. I'm in that 19%, 20% of the time where the tractor's working hard. After the dirt is loose, and if I'm just piling it up over there, like I did over there, again, now now that's easy. That's that 80%. I'm gonna take you a little further out, show you guys some more work that I did. All right, so this is a tactical trench that I dug out. The great thing about this is I can shoot 360 degrees in here because I got dirt basically, in every direction in here. But basically I've got, I don't know, 8 to, the side walls here are about 8 feet to, I guess, 10 feet in certain locations high. To dig this out, I pretty much rented a 36,000-pound excavator, right, to do this digging. So again, now we're getting into that 1% where it's beyond the capability of the tractor. Using the stump bucket, I might have been able to do this over the course of, I don't know, 2 years or something. It would have put like another 1,000 hours on my tractor. Definitely not efficient, right? It's just like, if I had done that, right, all of a sudden I would have been in a position where instead of working the tractor only 1% of the time beyond the tractor's capability, I would have been working the tractor like 80% of the time beyond the tractor's capability. So obviously that doesn't make sense. It makes more sense to just get a bigger machine. Okay, so that's what I did. Now after I dug this out, right, I was able to use the tractor with the stump bucket and the flat bucket to fine tune it, right, to grade it, to create a water runoff, right. And again, I am, there's still rocks in there, but that was still hard work. That was, I put about, I guess, 50 hours on the tractor in here, working in that 19% range where the tractor's working hard, right? This is, finishing this off is not like cutting grass, right? It's not like, like running a brush cutter. That was hard work where I'm really, stuck in the tractor being in the mud almost up to the axles. That was hard work, but that, I'm only doing it 19% of the time. So that makes sense where, hey, I can stay with this machine that's still kind of efficient. If I was going to be doing this on a regular basis, because basically I did it, it's done. I'm not planning to do any more of this work for a very long time. If I was planning to continue doing this kind of work, yeah, I would say I need to get a bigger tractor, right? At this point, I'm just doing maintenance in here, right? So let's say, I don't know, some rocks or something fall out of the way, or I need to kind of regrade it. I'm just doing maintenance, so that puts me in the 80% of easy work, okay? So that's kind of how I think of this stuff as far as trying to figure out, on a continuous basis, is the tractor that I have the right tractor for me on an ongoing basis, or do I need to upgrade to a bigger machine or not? So now, just let me talk to you guys a little bit about the grass cutting and the brush cutting, particularly the grass cutting. Normally, when I'm cutting grass, I'm in that 80% easy work area. But at my house, right, I have a dog area, right, that dogs go out and they poop, and because of the constant pooping, basically the ground is very fertilized, and the grass grows extremely tall and extremely thick in that area. And that's an area that I need to cut on a weekly basis, right? So a couple of times where I kind of let it go and the grass got about a foot tall, right? And it was like really thick. You know, that's where I go to cut that grass. Now I'm working that mower in that 19% of the time where I got to work hard. It's not like cutting like, grass that's only 6 inches tall and relatively thin. You know, that pushes the work up into that 19% category where it's hard. I usually have to double cut it. I'll go in there, I'll raise up the mower deck, I'll make one cut, do that area. It's a relatively small area. I think it's something like 30 feet by 60 feet. But I'll cut it. I'll make one pass at a higher area, then I'll drop the mower deck. I'll cut it again. About 8 years ago, when I first started doing that, there was a learning curve, when I tried to cut it, just keeping the mower low, I actually stalled out the tractor. Right, the blades stopped spinning, and that stalled out the engine. Another time, what happened is the PTO was turning, but the rubber wasn't, so it kind of lost contact. It loosened up, and I ended up breaking my belt, on the finishing mower. So I learned for that particular area that I have to double cut it first at a high area, then at a low area. But that definitely puts it in that 20% range, where I have to work a little bit harder. If it was a much bigger area, I wouldn't go in there with the finishing mower. I'd go in there with the brush cutter because that's a little bit more heavy duty. But it's such a small area, I don't feel like changing out the attachments to cut a small area like that. So, I have to figure out a different way to do it, which is double cutting it, to make it happen. So, I hope you guys found this video useful. If you're not a member of the channel, subscribe. Hit that bell button so you get some notifications of the videos I make. And also, drop some comments below. Tell me about your experiences. How do you, what do you think about the work that I do? Tell me about some of the work you do. I'll talk to you guys soon.